In this video I'll be talking about my best sessions of last year. I'm going to start by the beginning of the year. I was up at the Reservoir struggling to catch anything. It was freezing cold, I had lots of frost days and I was not catching much apart from a few bream. And I didn't know what was going to happen, I didn't know if I was going to catch any carp at all. But I had 1 or 2 more sessions left and it started to look like spring was arriving. I got down early morning and noticed there was nobody there, so I had a little look at where I was going to go and I dropped into a swim that I thought would give me a higher chance of getting a carp. I wasn't expecting a huge amount just because I was blanking so many times there. I decided to just keep it very simple, fish with little 12mm pop-ups and just hoping that something was going to happen. Out of nowhere I managed to get a take and I just couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable that I had a take after many sessions blanking. I first of all thought, oh, it's another bream, but as soon as I picked it up it was definitely a carp. It gave me a hell of a fight. It wouldn't stop going. It was a proper scrap. I was absolutely terrified that I was going to lose. I landed the carp and I couldn't believe it, that it wasn't absolutely huge, but it was just so of a relief to finally catch a carp from that lake. All the comments that I had of keep going, it's going to happen, I was doubting myself really that it was going to happen, and it worked. It paid off and I finally hooked one, and that was a common. I think it was about £17. It wasn't particularly a monster, but it was a good start and I was really excited about the rest of the day. Then I decided to change things up a little bit. I heard something in the margins, so I put a little bit of bait in there and I kind of thought I'll give it an hour, maybe I'll have a go in there, and I did, and it was in for about 2 minutes and it went off, and I just seriously couldn't believe that one either. And that turned out to be a 23 pounder, which was absolutely amazing, especially it was still the morning and I couldn't believe that I had another bite. Now nothing happened for about an hour, and I think I remember I recast the rod back into the open water area that I was fishing originally. I think it went off within like 10 minutes and I had another carp. It was unreal. It was one of the best morning sessions I've had for ages. And that one was actually £21, so absolutely amazing. 2 20s and a 17 in the morning, especially as I've been blanking constantly, and I finally had a result. Finally the spring arrived. I was waiting for the opportunity to lockdown to end, as well as I had a water lined up to start fishing in April. And that was actually mid-Kent. Now I had never fished any of the waters before, I haven't even looked around them, I didn't know huge amounts about them, I didn't know what I was going to be in for. I decided to only join 2 lakes. I didn't want to go around and fish all different lakes and try and stretch myself thin. I didn't want to fish one water and then change to another and struggle. So I decided just to join 2 waters that were right next to each other, and that's where I started to focus my efforts. A good couple of sessions in and I didn't have a single carp. I think I had some tench and that was about it. I had maybe a few problems with ducks and things like that, and that was pretty much it. It was pretty boring, but I kept going because I didn't know what I was in for really, so I just kept going, thinking that something was going to happen down the line. Eventually it paid off. I got there for a 24-hour session expecting to get a couple more tench, because the spot that I actually found was actually full of them, but I knew that there was a couple of carp in there. Now and then they came up and down and I just knew that they were going to eventually be in that spot. So I turned up, anticipation of catching one. Nothing happened all evening, apart from a few tench, which I was expecting. And then early morning came, and still nothing, and I didn't know if I was going to get anything. I got really bored, and I started talking about tea. And I started to put together a little video of how I made my tea on the bank. Now, I thought that was really fun, and very carpy, and pretty much the second that I stopped doing that, I had a take. Now at first I thought it was a tench, because I had plenty on that spot, and halfway in I still thought it was a tench. I got it quite close in, and then I realised it was a carp, and it gave me a hell of a kicking in the margins. It wouldn't stop, it was going up and down, almost wiped my other lines out, but eventually I got it in the net, and it was a really dark, amazing looking mirror that I couldn't believe that I had to buy it. It was my first one for mid-Ken. I was so happy. I think the carp was around about £16. It was a really dark, short and stumpy carp. I was using something new at that time. I was using a 15mm white Cool Candy pop-up, and it was something that I haven't used before, and I don't really often use white as well, so that was a good opportunity to try it, and it paid off. That little change made a difference for me, especially when the spring was absolutely freezing cold. The first part of spring was just absolutely terrible for fishing. It just putting everything off. It was freezing cold, but as it started to warm up, I changed my baits and managed to catch that carp. The summer started coming along. It started to warm up. After the carp spawned, I had 4 nights on the cast to go down the Yateley, so I had a session planned, and I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go as well. I wanted to start on one of the easier waters, not the easiest one, but it's sort of like the middle range one, which I thought might give me an opportunity to get one straight away. I got on the lake and I saw a few carp splashing around the reeds, and I thought, this is going to be easy. One night on here and I'll get a bite. I did the night and caught nothing. I just couldn't believe it. Carp were there and I had nothing. The odd one was on the surface, and I thought, oh, it's definitely warmed up quite a bit. I wasn't expecting to be on the surface that quick, or I was expecting them to be really in the reeds or maybe tucked away, but they were there on the surface. And I started to question what I was going to do next. I started to pack away, and then I suddenly decided maybe I'll put some dog biscuits out, maybe more will come up on the surface, and they did. And it started getting better and better and better, and I thought, this is my opportunity to put hook bait out there. I eventually hooked one, but the only thing is it went straight into weed. I managed to get it out of that weed bed, and then it went into another one. Couldn't move it, and eventually it started to move, and I thought, this is it, this is my opportunity to get it in. And it dived into some pads, and then the hook pulled, which was unfortunate. So I decided then that I was going to move, because I didn't want to stay on that lake anymore. I went to the hardest lake on the complex and started to figure out where I was going to go. I decided to set up in a swim that I fished before. This is a swim that I've caught plenty of carp from in the past. It is a very hard water, so I started to look at the spots that I fished previously and bait up. Now I was using particle, and my hook bait was a tiger nut wafter, and I put them in those spots that I knew that would do bites, one on the margin and one towards the island. Nothing happened all evening, but I did see a few carp cruising around and jumping out, which was looking promising. Early morning came and nothing happened. I was a bit disappointed, but I wasn't sure if anything was going to happen in the first morning. I thought if I stayed on, maybe I'd get a bite, and maybe in the second morning. An hour went past, and then my opportunity came when I finally got a take on the hardest lake on the complex. I played it. I was absolutely worried that I was going to lose it. It tried to weed me up a couple of times. It tried to go for some snags, which is a lot of in that lake. Eventually I managed to land it. I'd put all that effort in, and it finally paid off there after having a few sessions down where it was really terrible weather, or it was freezing cold, and I finally managed to catch one on the hardest lake. That carp was actually 26.5, probably one of my biggest ones at that time from that lake, and I was really happy with it. It was a really chunky, fat mirror, and I was so happy with that completely. Literally, that was it. That was what I came for. After I had that one, I stayed for another night, didn't get anything at all, and ended up moving on to the easiest lake on the complex. Just thought last night, try and catch something, doesn't matter if it's small. I did a night on there, and by the morning I managed to catch a little carp. I think that was about 11 or 10 pound. It was just something to end with, a nice ending for that session. So the summer went along, continued. Be honest, I didn't catch huge amounts. The high pressure really put the carp off quite a lot. I caught now and then a few carp, mostly blank sessions as well. But I also had another opportunity to get down at Yateley, and I blanked. And then I had another opportunity to get down there and do a couple of nights, and I blanked again. And I had 6 nights of blanks. I had nothing from the lakes at all. I didn't know what to do next, and autumn started coming along, and I thought I have to get back down and do one more session before it gets really cold. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got down there. I just thought, get down there, maybe I'll make a decision when I'm there what I'm going to be doing. I got down, had a look around, still didn't know what I was going to do. Got everything on the Barrow, and I just thought, oh, I'll go on the easy lake. I'll just go on the really easy one. Maybe I'll catch a carp. I haven't had anything for 6 nights. But then I changed my mind. Out of nowhere, I decided to go on the hard lake. I just thought, no, I'm going to go on the hard lake. Why am I on the easy lake trying to catch a little carp? I should be on there trying to catch something big. So I went into a swim that I'd never fished before, but the river was coming up and the water was coming into the lake, and I knew that that end could be good, especially when there's water coming in from the river. So I set up in the swim, and it just looked really carpy. I was really excited about my session. I haven't had anything for a while, so I was kind of just hoping that I'd get even the little ones that are in there. There's a few ones in there that are small, and maybe I'll catch one of those if I'm lucky. I also brought with me something that I haven't used in years. I found these hook baits that I made like a couple of years ago, and they're my little purpley pink 15mm pop-ups, and I didn't know if I was going to use them, but I brought them anyway just because I found them. I decided to put 2 on that and 1 on a coral candy pop-up. I put them out into areas that I thought might do carp, also areas that I've heard of has done carp in the past. Like I said, I haven't fished it before, so I didn't really know what I was in for. So the first night came along, nothing happened. Got to early morning and I got a take, and I couldn't believe it. I literally was like, what's happening? And I picked the rod up and I was like, what have I got on here? I don't know. It felt small, but I was hoping that it was a carp and not a bream. I played it in and landed it, and I thought, oh, hello, looks like one of the stockies in the lake. And it was a little one, about 12 pound. As the autumn was coming along, the colours of the carp slightly changed and it looked really carpy, and I thought, yes, my session is getting on nicely. I've had one after all that time. It was brilliant. So I put that carp back, recast, and I was happy. And then I didn't have to wait too long, and I managed to get another take. I just couldn't believe it. I played that as well, and I wasn't sure if it was that big. It definitely gave me a little bit of a fight. So I finally landed it, and I was like, I don't recognise you. I didn't know what that carp was that I had in there. I was like, it's got big plates on it, and all the carp around there haven't really got many mirrors on them. They're quite barren looking carp. But this one was plates all over it, and I had not recognised it anywhere. I showed a few people that one as well, and they didn't recognise it either. It's probably one of the most interesting looking carp I've had in ages. Absolute stunner. Proper wood carving of a carp. I put that carp back, and I was literally about to put a new hook bait on to get casted out again, and another rod went off. Now, a rod that hadn't done anything. I've had 2 on one and nothing on the others. I had 3 rods out, and suddenly that one went off, and I couldn't believe it. And I pulled into it, and it felt heavy, and I thought, this is a decent carp, and he wouldn't stop going. He was constantly going up and down, sticking to the bottom. I wasn't exactly excited about the fight. I just wanted to get it in the net, but I was just praying that it was going to stay on, and I'm going to get it in the net. And I literally got it up to the surface and saw it was an absolute chunk. Now I got it in the net, and I looked at it and I thought, is that 30? could that be a 30 pounder? It turned out to be a 28.4, not quite there, but it was still an absolute chunk. What an amazing carp, and what an amazing session. After that, I got rods back in, put more bait in, and nothing happened. It was pretty quiet the rest of the day, but I was so exhausted from having those fish and sorting all that out and rebaiting, and I was happy to just rest really. And I thought maybe it was the morning, maybe it was just that morning area where they were feeding, and maybe it'll happen again. So the night went over pretty quiet again. Early morning came along and nothing happened all morning, and I was like, don't know what's happening here. After all that morning previously, I thought maybe they'll keep going, maybe I've put them off, maybe I've pushed them out of that area. It wasn't until the afternoon, nearly 4 o'clock, I finally managed to get a take, and it was the area that had been doing most of the bites, and I had a good fight on that one as well. Really good fish. Managed to land it pretty quick, and that turned out to be a 21. 2 nights and I've had all those carp, and I couldn't believe it, but I felt that everything was working so perfectly that I needed to continue what I was doing. Maybe it was going to pay off, maybe I was going to get a few more. So overnight I had nothing again. Early morning came, that was my opportunity to get a couple more bites maybe before I had to go. Nothing happened, it was pretty quiet, didn't really see anything, didn't hear anything, and then suddenly out of nowhere I got a take. Started playing it, and it managed to get under a tree. It wouldn't come out. I tried different angles, I tried everything, it just wouldn't come out at all. Eventually my 20-pound braided hookling just snapped straight in half. That was the opportunity to get one more, and then after that nothing else happened. I had all those carp and it was a brilliant session, and I just thought, well, you know, you win some, you lose some. It didn't really matter that much, and it was a brilliant 3-night session down at Yateley. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you everyone for supporting my channel, watching my videos and commenting. And I'll see you in the next video.